Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chat with Chap. I'm your host, Ginger Wade, and we have a lovely guest with us today. Before we jump into our very fun conversation we're going to have today, I want to give you a reminder. We have two women's events coming up the first weekend of October. You're not going to want to miss them. One is at Montrose Bible Conference, and it is in Northeastern PA. It is a women's retreat. I'm going to be speaking there along with Donna Jean Breckenridge, and it is going to be a wonderful, refreshing weekend. And we're also having a Pittsburgh event the exact same day, which is super cool. And Zan Tyler is going to be there with Alicia Hunt. So you're not going to want to miss it, ladies. Get refreshed, get off to a good start with your fall. Check things out at chaponline.com/events. And hopefully I will see some of you up in Montrose in October. Okay. Let's get started here. So today's topic of conversation is AI, right? And our guest is Nancy Manos. She's a lovely lady that I've known for many years from Arizona. And she is going to walk through this discussion with me. Nancy, welcome to Chattin' with Chap.
Hey, thanks, Ginger. Good to be with you.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever been on my show. So
I
this is
have not. This is a first.
yay. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Nancy.
Well, I'm a graduated homeschool mom of two. I homeschooled my girls from preschool through high school. I'm a grandma to two, and they don't live near us, though that's kind of a bummer, but I love being a grandma. I love when they visit. My husband and I served on the board of directors of our state homeschool organization for 13 years, and I was the executive director for 3.5. And then I am now running the national conference for leaders of Christian statewide homeschool organizations, and that's where I get to see you every year. So I'm keeping busy.
Yes. So everybody, when I talk to you about going for leadership training, Nancy is the woman who makes it possible.
It's a team effort, but I love running events and I love getting to serve fellow state leaders. And, I started attending that conference in 2005. And so I have benefited for many years, and it's just a joy to get to pour into others.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. I enjoy being whenever we can get there. I just love it. It's so good to connect with others.
Yep.
Uh, so today's topic, AI. So everybody, if you don't know what AI is, it's artificial intelligence. So let's just start there. We're going to start with the bare bones. How about it, Nancy?
Yep.
To give everybody kind of this is the reality of the life that we're living in. So, in hearing about AI, discussing AI, I've heard some people say, "Well, they're not going to use it. It's not good." I've even heard people say it's the Antichrist or whatever. It's crazy stuff like that, right? So,
Yep.
um, is it possible? Like, where is AI? Is it even possible to avoid it in the world that we're in?
Well, I hear this too. People say, I'm never going to use it. You know what? If you have a smartphone, you're already using it. If you use navigation, if you use Siri, if you use Alexa, if you use Netflix, everything you use is already has AI built into it, and it is predicting your behavior and feeding you information based on what it thinks it knows about you.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy to me.
Right?
Creepy. What it thinks it knows about you. That is just
Right.
flat. So yeah, like you said, so it's analyzing data, right? It's
Yes.
gathering all kinds of information, analyzing, and it seems like it knows you
Yep.
because it follows your patterns,
Yep.
right? So again, then I guess that's where people get into having those, the chatbots, my friend, or those types of things.
Oh,
But it's
yeah.
really just a machine or a
Right.
tool.
So the easiest way to think about AI is that it's predictive text that is trained on massive amounts of data, websites, articles, books, just data, so much data. And then it's also trained on human behavior and patterns, which is why it sounds human, which is
Mm,
why when you talk to ChatGPT or Claude or, any of the LLMs, the chatbots, it
mhm.
sounds, like, oh, Ginger, that's such a great thought. Great question. I like how you're thinking about that. And it will even say things like, that made me smile when you said that, Nancy. And it's like, come on, you're an algorithm. You're not smiling.
You are a tool. Yeah, exactly. So, and I've heard people talking too, and they say, well, they'll even be like, how does this look on me?
Oh,
And
yeah.
oh, it looks great. And they're like, well, you know what? I don't really think it does. Oh, you're right. It isn't the best thing. Well, no, I've changed my mind. I think I'm like, well, you know what? You are right. So it's not
Yep.
even, it's just playing to you, right? It's just,
It's not thinking in the way that humans think. It's responding in a predictive manner. So it sounds conversational. It sounds human. And that's where I think, and I don't know where you want to go with questions or topics, but that's where I think we need to be really careful in preparing our teens in particular. Because for me, I don't think we're having little kids use AI. We're really talking about more teens preparing for adulthood. But they could see it as a companion. They could see it as wise advice because it'll quote the Bible. It'll sound spiritual, but it's not the Holy Spirit and it's not a human, giving advice.
yeah, let's go along that path because I do want to touch that. We want to talk about homeschool and how to use it there too. But
Yep.
since we're there, let's talk about that because I've heard so many terrible things about teens forsaking real life connection and all that stuff because it's hard. It is
Yeah.
hard. And the bot will tell you whatever you want to hear, but the bot also tells terrible, awful things
Yeah.
for you to do to yourself or whatever.
Right.
And how is it how is it that we get trapped in that? How is it that what is it about it that's just, maybe we've covered that already, but how is it so easy to get drawn into that?
Well, think of the conditioning that has happened leading up to this. Social media came on the scene. We're used to connecting digitally. Everybody has a smartphone now. You're used to, like, even when my grandkids are visiting and they'll ask a question, and I'm like, I don't know, let's ask Siri. And so we're used to picking up our phone, picking up our smart device, our tablet. We're used to using technology to get answers, to get direction, to, those kind of things. So I feel like we've been conditioned for the last 20 years and we didn't maybe recognize that that's what was happening. And so then adding in an AI tool like ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or Claude just seems like a natural progression. And so I think we just need to be aware that, they've tricked us. It's a bait and switch kind of thing, like with the convenience of asking a digital tool for help. Even if it's, directions to home, you're somewhere out and about and you can't remember how to get out of the person's neighborhood. You're always asking your phone for help. And so
Mhm.
I think that's what's kind of led us to where we are. And then the human soundingness of it, that's not even a word, but you know what I mean?
Yes. No, no, I exactly know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. One, I think, I mean, let's go back to the day, the 2020 just turned everybody inward, right? We were all shut apart,
Yes.
and I think that was ample breeding ground for
Yeah.
getting, especially the teens and stuff like that, just getting into by myself mode because that was the option.
Right.
And
Well, and think about this. We are more connected than we've ever been. Social media, phones, like we are more connected with more people and more lonely than we've ever been. And it's interesting. So that's one of the things that I think parents can do, especially homeschool families. We have a huge advantage because we have time. We're together and we can be teaching our kids, modeling for them the value of real in-person relationships.
Mhm.
And nothing will replace that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh my goodness. I've been telling that to people all the time. Get together, come be
Yes.
together. It's so important. We're built for relationship. And dealing with AI or replacing that with AI is it's the same issue. It's the same issue. We were made to be together. So,
Right.
okay. So if a parent is noticing maybe their child is not as willing to interact or doesn't seem to be hanging out with friends. I mean, I mean, I know the answer to this, but is that a time when a parent needs to step up and be like, hey, what's going on? Let me see your phone. What have you been using? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, our rule was always no private technology, meaning computers were in the living room or the family room, so there was nothing hidden or secret. Phones don't go to your bedroom with you, when the girls were in high school, and things like that. And so I think an open communication making sure, and it's not that you're trying to control your kids, you're not trying to spy on them, you're not trying to micromanage them, you're
Mhm.
trying to protect them because I just interviewed Israel Wayne for my podcast, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit, but, um, and he was saying it's easier to never have given your children a device than to give it to them and take it away. And so, probably less is more when it comes to screens, especially in the younger years. But you've seen those kids where they're playing a game on a tablet and you take it away and they have a full-on meltdown.
Oh,
Well, it's
oh,
because they're geared to create a dopamine situation that
mhm,
is as addictive as drugs. And
mhm.
so we're protecting our children by putting up those boundaries. And you know what? Real life is more fun, I think. If you're
Yeah.
playing games, you're doing things with other families, whatever, your homeschool experience should be a rich relational experience. They're not missing out on screens because they are really enjoying family and friends and church and all those things.
Yeah, yeah, that brings a thought to mind because I mean we had to be willing to stay firm on the no, 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 no. But this person's doing it, I don't care. No, and so you do have to be like kind of like the tough parent, but you're not only like taking something away or keeping something, but you have to create those other things then, like
Yeah,
game time or exercise time, walk time, hike time, whatever, study time, whatever it is that it is. You can't
yeah,
just be the nebulous open space then, oh, my kid doesn't have a phone. Now what? I mean, boredom
right.
is great. They come up with fun things when they're bored, but
They do.
um but it is important to be willing to stand firm on that. We have the same rules. I mean, no phones in the room. Now, I do have adult children living at home, so
Sure.
that changes things, but we have a charging rack in the kitchen. Everything is
Yep.
even my phone. I don't have my phone at my nightstand. I hear stories of the ladies who wake up in the morning, grab their phone, and they're scrolling in bed, and I'm like, I have to get out of my bed and go downstairs to the kitchen before I even touch my phone, which I just think is
Right.
a good boundary for me.
Yeah.
I needed that. So
Yes.
we have to be the tough guy.
It is, it has, but I think if we look at it like we're not enforcing a rule, we are protecting our children.
Yeah.
And when I mean, you don't have to look very far. And I think there's a really valid reason that a lot of parents are like, we don't want anything to do with AI because
Hmm.
even the internet and social media and phones are scary. In some ways, I think we think about AI in the same way that we would about the internet or social media. We don't want to graduate our child and they've never had any experience, so there's no shepherding, there's no stewarding their heart, there's no teaching them wisdom, but we also don't want to introduce it when they're 4. So somewhere in the teen years, I feel like it's okay to introduce these things so that they get practice using them under your supervision, with you walking alongside them, helping them have success, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so we're talking about we were talking about relational use of
Yeah,
AI for for lack of a better term. But let's talk about homeschool. So, like we were saying, it's literally impossible to not run into it, to not use AI. Uh, when we're talking about homeschool and training our kids, having them develop skills, and there's today's options that don't require some of the skills that we had before. But what do you think are skills that absolutely need to be developed no matter what, regardless of AI? And maybe how can we use AI with those things? I mean,
sure.
it's a big
Well, I
question.
think these are the skills, and it's going to sound weird because they have zero things to do with technology, but the skills that they need actually prepare them to engage wisely with technology when they do. So I think we need things like research skills, good reading, and critical thinking skills. They need a good, solid base of knowledge. They need to know history. They need to know the Bible. They need to know science. They need to know general knowledge. Because when you do engage with AI, it can feed you garbage. And it sounds so convinced that it's fact. And it'll read very confidently. So they need skills that will help them to be able to discern, is this real? Is it true? How do I know it's true? Where can I go to learn, to cross check this? So
Hmm.
asking good questions is a really important skill. Knowing the Bible, like I said, having a relationship with the Lord, growing in integrity, like all the things that you think that has nothing to do with technology. But the truth is, it's the most important thing before you ever touch technology. So those are some things, but it's like that. It's curiosity, creativity, communication, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the originality comes from the student, and
Yeah.
then maybe, like you said though, I was like, then maybe using AI to help. I don't know. I was thinking format what you come up with
Oh,
instead of
sure.
seeking AI for information. And the only reason I say that is because, like you said, AI pulls information from everywhere. I mean,
Right.
real stuff, but also movies. I mean, books, whatever. My husband just told me the story about these lawyers who went to court with all these cases in their paperwork that were from movies. They weren't real. Like
Oh, gosh.
AI, they'd ask AI for supporting cases for what they were doing, and they were all bogus because they were all just from entertainment or whatever. So
Right.
AI doesn't, I mean, it pulls from everywhere. So you have to be aware of what it is. And yeah, it will, especially opinion things too. It'll change its opinion
Oh,
based on what you feed it, right? Oh, I want to play to this person. So yeah,
yes.
so that good grounding in knowledge of on their own. I think discernment is just popped into my brain. Like discernment is so huge. I mean, it was huge before, and I think it's just growing in necessity because of
Right.
this.
Yeah. Well, and think about you want to have your kids do their thinking first. So if they're of an age where you're like, okay, I'd like to have them engage with it a little bit, maybe, you're not going to have them write an essay for you because then you have bypassed the important steps and work that help you learn something. You want to flex that muscle of learning and growth and go through the struggle. Um, and of course, I feel like just as humans, our human nature is to take the path of least resistance. Like, do we want to do the hard work ever for any reason? Probably not. But teaching our kids the gratification of doing something, creating something, writing something, accomplishing something, overcoming a challenge, like that is very rewarding. And so if we can give them opportunities, but then maybe they have written an essay or they're working on a project and they've already got their ideas, then maybe they could go to ChatGPT or Claude or something and go, what am I missing? Have I repeated myself? How could I improve this? So then you could use the tool to help you make it better, but it's still your ideas. You've done the thinking and the beginning groundwork, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, life is learning. I've used that
It
tagline a
is.
million times, right? And you need to understand how you learn.
Yeah,
So that struggle is really important. And
it
sometimes
is.
it's a struggle for a while, and I just think about that just in our faith walks too. When in our journeys with the Lord, when we grow is when we're struggling.
Yep.
It's not like, oh, here, you this thriving, relationship with Jesus. It's just
Right.
right? It comes through all the challenges and all those types of things. And it makes sense that education and learning would be the same. He stretches us. God stretches us through all of and it sticks with us too, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're not going to remember if you ask ChatGPT to write an essay on some history thing, even if you read it, you're not going to remember what it wrote. It's just like reading something out of a book but if you have to go do some research and you have to have some conversations and you're reading some books and you're reading some articles and you're gathering the information, it sticks. You know, so it's so rewarding to actually do the work. And so I think that's one of the gifts that we can give our kids is to not let them bypass the learning process. How can once you're ready to introduce an AI tool, how can it assist you and support without removing the learning opportunity?
Excellent. So, do you think are all the AIs the same? Like you were mentioning Gemini and Grok, or are some of them different?
Well, they're all different. And of course, it's all based on who's programming them, who's running the back end, what data were they trained on, how much internet or social media access, like Grok, of course, was developed by X, by Elon Musk. So that has access to everything that's on X, Twitter. And so, they're all different. My favorite, I love Claude. Claude's probably my personal favorite tool, but I use ChatGPT probably equally as much. I love my personal favorite is, and I think both of them have it, but I have the ChatGPT app on my phone. And say I'm planning a women's event for church because I'm the women's ministry director at my church. I want to have a mixer where the theme for the night is this. This is what we're studying. This is what we're doing. Can you give me some activities that would be a nice mingling activity for introverts and extroverts alike around this theme? Like that kind of, and I just talk, share every thought that I have, and then it will give me some ideas. And then I choose which ones that I like, and I might adapt them like, okay, I like the idea, but I would do it this way. So you can use it for lots of things, but I do love the talk because then you can just process all your thoughts without having to, formulate them and sit and type.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's really handy. That's really cool. I had heard recently about one called Dominion. Have you ever heard of
I have
Dominion?
not heard of that. No.
Okay. So it's 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 Christian, like it's biblically based. So
Okay.
the way if you ask certain questions, it'll say, "Well, go talk to your parents about that." I,
Oh, that's good. We
yeah,
need tools like that.
yeah, yeah. And then there's it'll prompt you in biblical thinking and those types of ways, which or it won't go to certain places. Like if you ask certain things, it's not, we're
Oh,
not going there
good.
or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
creating it with, limit boundaries, I guess, is what you would
Yeah.
say. But I thought that was really interesting.
I'm
The
gonna
other
have to
one,
check that out.
yeah, the other one I thought that was super cool was I think it's called George. Is it George? I think Glenn Beck and David Barton, and I thought there was someone else, was taking their original documents that they have from the founding fathers,
Oh, wow.
AI that was only knowledgeable according to those writings and
Yeah.
nothing else. Like it's completely closed and it's just that stuff. So you could ask them questions and it would answer based upon the writings of the founding fathers. And then it wouldn't even like retain your question. It would wipe that out too. So it was purely only just their writings ever,
That's
which,
amazing.
yeah, I think that's really cool. So there are really amazing things that can be done and
Yes.
really helpful, but I think knowing the source is important.
Right. There is a tool that exists, Notebook. It used to be Notebook LM. So here's the trick with learning anything about AI is whatever you learned last week is probably going to be different next month.
Yeah.
Because it was Notebook LM for the longest time and now it's Google Notebook. But when you were talking about George, it operates in much the same way. You upload all the reference documents you want pertaining to a project or a topic, and it will only reference what you put in that folder for to answer your questions, to help you with your project, that kind of thing. So there are tools that, and even if you're using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, you can say, I only want this version of the Bible. I want you to only reference statistics from George Barna from the Barna Group, or so
Mhm.
you can give it some parameters. That doesn't lock it in quite as tight, and certainly not from a faith-based or
Yeah.
historical data like you're talking about.
Yeah. 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 Oh, that's interesting. Those are good things to know though too, because those are good. It's good to know that you can give parameters like that, and then it's
Yes.
not just
Yeah.
this whole big, gigantic, insane database of craziness.
Yes.
So, so what do you think, as far as, so we talked about learning to do things for yourself, doing the hard work so that you can receive the value. And goodness, I've talked with my kids about this already too, the value of doing a job well done on your own, like just appreciating that.
Yep.
So really, this is just another step in, it's another portion of discussion in what you should already be discussing with your kids as parents, as you're
Yeah.
training. So it's just another thing to add to the discussion.
It's true. You know, I interviewed another guest, a Christian homeschool dad who's in the AI business marketing world, and he was saying that you could, this was a fascinating thing that I just learned recently, was you can create an account for your kids on ChatGPT that is tied to your account. Like they need their own email address. And then you can monitor everything that they're doing. You can set time limits. And so there's some ways to use it with some good parental controls that I didn't know about previously.
Yeah, that's really good to know too. Oh my goodness. So yeah, and I as I was telling you before, like there is if you're running a co-op, if you're out there and you're a co-op leader,
Yeah.
everyone, leaders, it's okay to have the parameter of, no AI for your paper. If you choose that for your co-op, that's fine. You decide what your parameters are going to be for your co-op and you go with it. We did have an issue in our co-op with a young man who was using it to write his papers. And it wasn't help me, make it better or whatever. It was writing the papers. And that I guess there's an AI checker out there. You can run things through, was this done by AI?
Yeah.
Um, and that's interesting. I have another story too. There was a professor who put some text in white so you couldn't see it on the screen of the assignment. And then so he got all these students that had stuff in their responses that had things about the text in white that was not anywhere else in the assignment. So if that thing came up in the response, he knew that they had copied, paste, and fed it into AI to get to get the work. So I mean, that's
Yeah,
clever.
it
That's
is. Yeah.
clever.
Well, it's
So
so interesting too, because when you're talking co-ops, but also colleges, public high schools, they're taking one of two approaches. They're either banning it or they're requiring it. And so it's such an interesting world we live in where is it, some are like, nope, you're not going to use it at all. And some are like, no, you have to learn how to use it and we're going to require it. So everybody is going to approach it from a different angle, I guess.
yeah, yeah, but I think it's really great for us to like use our skills, use the brains that the Lord has given us,
Yeah.
and then use it to, fine tune it or whatever. I have used it a few times for it is so fun to see what it comes up with, like for podcast episode titles or
Yes.
things like that. It's pretty clever. I'm starting a homeschool mom meetup at my church, and I was like, what could I call this? And it's like, oh well, if you want this type of feeling, it should be this, or if you want this type of feeling, it should be that. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of fun. So it is fun to see what it comes up with. But yeah, the
Yeah.
temptation is to let it go further than that, which is we need to be with all things, right? We need to be
Yes.
uh self-controlled and things. But you have some great resources out there that I was made aware of that um parents can use to help their families kind of figure this AI thing out. So I don't know if it'll show up backwards on my screen, but it's this great little, I didn't do it in cover, but
It looks
um
good.
fabulous AI and your homeschool. So it's a discussion guide that you came up with. So tell us a little bit about this. This is great.
Well, I was thinking, I'd love to have a resource for families. It's free, free download. It's a sign up for my email list. I do not spam you, I promise. Um, but just we need to start thinking through how do we decide what our own family's AI policy is going to be? How are we going to approach AI? And so I came up with some questions. Now, I did a lot of the brainstorming up front. I had a whole bunch of questions myself, and then I did use Claude to help me kind of put them in a nice order and look for are there redundancies? Did I ask this question but a different way? So there's questions for parents, there's questions for teens and young adults, and then there's family discussion questions and some worksheets in there. So hopefully it's a helpful resource just to get you to have a conversation as a family and to be thinking, what are our values? Where is this acceptable and where is it not acceptable? And it even has some like real life scenarios to talk through with your kids. Say your friend, just had AI write its essay for him or her, and how do you feel about that? Or, those kind of things. So opening up those conversation starters so that you can kind of hone in on what is your approach going to be.
Yeah. I think it's really great because it gives the parents, here's your discuss this amongst yourselves, parents, right? And kids,
Right.
think about this amongst yourselves and then come together because they could be totally different viewpoints, obviously, between the generations. Gee, has that ever happened?
Never, not one time. That reminds me, it's really important for us as parents in this age of AI, in the digital age we live in, we have got to be willing to be open. So when your kids say something to you, don't respond, like don't freak out, don't instantly, like, oh, what are you saying? Because they will stop talking to you. And I think the most important thing is to keep that line of communication open with our kids. Then we will have a conversation. Okay, so I heard you say XYZ. I would like to share some things to help you understand why that might be too close to the edge or that might be hazardous for you. But don't freak out, like, because I think it shuts them down. Sometimes the best conversations are going for a walk where you're side by side, not staring at them in the eyeballs.
Yes. Yeah, I just heard that recently. I don't know who I was listening to, but they were saying some conversations are shoulder to shoulder conversations
Yep.
because it feels less threatening. You feel like you can be a little more open, stuff like that. But we have many
Right.
family conversations when we walk together every day. So yeah, so it's been, or in the car, like long
Car.
drives, whatever, so you can bring stuff up that might otherwise be,
Yes.
um, uh, yeah, a little bit scary. But so this is really, it's just another thing in our parenting that we have to include, you
Yeah, I
know.
don't think we can stick our heads in the sand. We can't pretend it's going away because it isn't. And if you look at the future, like the future is here today, and God is not surprised by this technology. He's still on the throne. We don't have to be afraid. We should be wise. We should be aware that there are scary things, but I don't think we need to live in fear. And so, how do we prepare our kids for a world where jobs are being eliminated because AI can do it faster, and where companies are hiring employees that are AI literate, that have AI skill over employees that don't. So we just have to think about the world we're preparing our kids for. Seek the Lord. I mean, He's going to lead us and guide us. He's not forsaken us because it's too much for Him to handle this technology. So I think we can rest in knowing He's with us and we have the wisdom of the Holy Spirit and we are shepherding our children's hearts for a world that God is not surprised they live in.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a time as this, right?
Yeah.
So praying for discernment and all that. So, and you know what? The world needs really solid, biblically founded people in
Yes.
these roles to help guide it, govern it, or whatever, so that things are used well and in appropriate ways. So, yeah,
Yes.
well, those are really good things to be thinking about. So, you had mentioned your podcast earlier,
Yeah.
and I have looked at the episodes look great. I confess I haven't listened to any episodes yet, but tell us about what you're doing there with your podcast.
Well, because I have grandchildren that are almost 8 and 11, and I'm paying attention to the world that we live in, I use AI every day in my work. I'm very interested in learning more. I love to learn. And so what I noticed was there's a gap. There are some people talking about AI in the Christian homeschool space, but not a lot. And I thought, we need to be having these important conversations, even if they're hard conversations or we're like, I don't want anything to do with it. You have to be aware. So my hope is that I've interviewed 10 people so far with another episode coming out on Thursday. And I hope that these conversations are encouraging and helpful and give you some food for thought, maybe some ideas for practical ways it could save you time as a homeschool mom so you have more time with your kids or that kind of thing too. But just having conversations around technology and AI and how we as Christian homeschool families can steward this season well.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's not something to be afraid of.
No.
It's something to discover, understand, and use appropriately.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it can be a great tool for families.
Yes. So the name of the podcast is
Yeah.
AI and Your Homeschool. And it's on my website. I know, so clever. It's harder to say than I thought when I came up with it. But yeah, AI and Your Homeschool, because it isn't I'm not saying everybody needs to use it or how or when. That's totally up to you. But hopefully, the conversations we're having will give you some ideas that maybe you hadn't thought of. And then you can, okay, well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I really love that. I really love it because we honestly, we just have to think about it. Like you said, we can't put our heads in the sand. It's out there, whether we choose to use it or not choose to use it, it's out there. And I do think homeschooling, part of homeschooling is we need to prepare them to launch them,
Yeah,
right? We need to prepare them for what is out there. We can't just say, okay, I've done the last 18 years. Here you go. Figure it
yeah,
out. Prepared as we go along. So, and this is part of it now. This is part of the package. So, parents, you can do it. You can do it out there. You can check it out and decide what you want to do. And you know what? Maybe it is that your children teach you. Maybe they're ones that teach you, and you do it together and figure out what's healthy. It's very interesting to me because my older kids who some really pushed for that early phone usage when it was brand new. And we were like, no, no, no. And then they, as they got adult aged and stuff, they used the socials and all that stuff, are coming back around and saying, we don't want it. I took it all off my phone. I don't use any of them anymore. They don't even have accounts anymore. So, wow, like, and that just kind of that makes me smile because these are the types of things that we were training them in, but they needed to take their journey, right?
yeah.
Um, and come around to their own decisions and things like that. So plant those seeds, plant the seeds, seek discernment from the Lord, and yeah, see where the Lord takes us in this crazy journey of homeschool.
Right. It's an amazing journey, but it is a little crazy.
It is. It is. Well, it's crazy in the good way, right?
Oh,
The
yes,
crazy
yep.
time. All right, Nancy, is there anything else you want to be sure that parents hear before we wrap things up today?
I just think sometimes we think we need to be the technology expert, like we need to know it all so we can teach our kids, and that's not true. We can be a wise guide for our children, learning alongside them. And so don't feel overwhelmed. That's my whole thing. Don't be afraid. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't let it, because I mean, it can just suck the life out of you when you think about the rapid rate of change. There's no way to keep up with it. So just dip your toe in, learn a little bit at a time, and seek God's wisdom, but don't be afraid. That's my big because it's easy to get overwhelmed, and God doesn't want us there. Peace is a gift from Him. He Himself is our peace, and it's up to us to protect that. So, how do we do that in this Wild West kind of world that we live in?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do not be afraid. Was is mentioned many, 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 many times throughout Scripture. So
It
there we
is,
go.
yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nancy. I'm so glad you came on the show today. And hopefully, this gets lots of conversations started in families' homes. And yeah, it can be a really practical, helpful tool. And something definitely to discuss, set boundaries for, and see where the Lord takes us with it all.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. This is such a fun conversation.
Yeah, great. Okay. See you, everybody. Till next time, take care and enjoy the time with your children, drawing them closer to Jesus and following Him with all of your lives. See you later. Bye.